areas it's good to invest. And this, I believe, will bring us to what we need, not only in Europe, in the world, transform new low-carbon economy, because it's quite clear that the planet needs it. We as a humans need it as well, and I believe that with a common effort, we will achieve it. Thank you very much, Julian.
Thank you, Mr. Šefčovič, for this comprehensive and short overview of the development of the Energy Union process, and also for the update on Nord Stream, just coming straight from your earlier conversation with Mr. Gabriel. Obviously, Nord Stream is a very hot topic. But also thank you for emphasizing earlier that the Energy Union is not just about gas. It is very much about integration of electricity markets and many other aspects that we will discuss later. I would like now to turn to Mr. Vasil Hudek, Economy Minister of Slovakia, and ask him, in this complex picture of energy security, what is the role of Slovakia? And I would like to break the question in two. What is the short-term role, and how you see the role of Slovakia in a bit longer strategic terms? We know Slovakia is a major transit route and plays main, but let's hear from the source.
Thank you. Also, I would like to stress that it is my pleasure to be here. I think the panelists of not only Slovakia, but also EU member states and globally in terms of the issues related to environment and climate change. I want to say that not really reflecting the way how Brussels works with nation states, because sometimes picture with small print from the far from Brussels saying, here where you are, this is what you're moving forward, because Brussels told us. But anyway, this is not the way. We do see EU Energy Union as important not only for Europe but also for the Slovak national interests. We do believe as a common task, as common undertaking among the European nations, dependent on the import of fossil fuels. So obviously for us, between Slovakia in terms of its energy system to the neighbor states and to European network is one of the critical issues. In terms of the role, as the question was, I believe Slovakia does play and should play an important role in the overall. We are an important transport route for gas, and we do want to continue to be an important energy hub and transport corridor for gas from the east to the. It's a complex picture because, as was already mentioned, we have developments happening partly due to the conflict on the Russia-Ukraine borders, and now we see for example, the enlargement of the Nord Stream corridor is not something that really fulfills the needs of the European gas market. We believe this could have detrimental impact on Slovakia, but not to be just on reactive side. We do propose also new ways how to strengthen the energy situation in Europe. We have a project which you probably heard about called East Ring, which actually could be a very interesting way how we diversify the sources of gas to Europe by connecting Slovak corridor, which is traditionally east-west corridor, also to the Balkans, basically to the southern sources of gas in the future, especially from Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, but also the LNG gas from the United States going through Greece and Balkan states. So we believe that this interconnection between Slovakia going down to the south through Hungary, Romania and Bulgaria could be a very interesting contribution to the overall diversification of the gas market in Europe. So the transport and corridor element is one of the strategic issues we want to focus upon. When I was in Ukraine 3 weeks ago, my Ukrainian colleague did emphasize the fact that for Ukraine, continuation of the flows from Russia through Ukraine to the West is a critical issue for the survival of the government itself. And we have to take into account that over 2 billion euros of annual revenue for the Ukrainian budget is coming from the transport of gas. So it's an issue which has many ramifications. The other aspect is the overall contribution of Slovakia to the creation of the European Energy Union. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are dependent on the European environment, and we have to be part of the creation of the Energy Union. We do want to use a presidency of Slovakia within the European Union in the second half of 2016 as a way to promote the ideas of European Union, not only because the commissioner happens to be from Slovakia, but especially because this is a real issue important for Europe, but also for our Slovak national interests. Also, what is very, very important, and this is the kind of other side of the coin, because I kind of look at energy aspects from two perspectives. One is how to secure the energy supplies, how to secure the energy stability for the nation states. But on the other hand, this is the issue of decreasing the dependency of economy on energy supplies. So energy efficiency, connection to the climate change, to environment is another important aspect. We are pushing in Slovakia overall towards modernization, towards much more innovation in our economy. I do believe that energy efficiency, all the technologies related to clean energy, energy efficiency and those types of innovations are very important also for our drive towards more competitiveness in Slovak economy. So we are, for example, in the process of creating a national innovation cluster which would connect in Slovakia R&D in the energy area with the companies which are involved in different elements of energy production, from renewables to nuclear to hydro, etc. And we want to make sure that Slovakia is not only a consumer of energy, but also a hub, a producer of innovations in the energy area. So this innovative element of energy market is very important for us, and we want to position Slovakia in a new way. And last but not least, I think it's very important that in the energy sector, and especially in the drive towards more energy efficiency, we combine forces as government and private sector. Public-private efficiency. Here I would also emphasize the role of innovative financial instruments. For example, in Slovakia, we created so-called Slovak Investment Holding, which will have as one of the focus areas to promote energy efficiency in Slovakia, especially by investments of promoting public-private partnerships towards. Here I think we need more discussions, and as Commissioner mentioned at the very beginning, that we need to talk, we need to really discuss issues which are of interest and which are important. And one of those issues is how to structure such partnerships in the way which would, for example, not have negative impact on the public debt. And this is also an issue for Eurostat, for how do we structure financial schemes supporting, for example, the energy efficiency of public buildings in the way which would not negatively impact public debt of the countries concerned. So many things which are on the agenda, but we believe that Slovakia could play an important role and be one of the leaders in the whole issue of energy efficiency and energy union.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you also for emphasizing the huge role of energy efficiency and bringing also more clearly the climate issue in the agenda. I mean, generally we hear about every single country that would like to become the gas hub of Europe or of some area. It's very interesting to hear that Slovakia would like to become energy innovation hub, which is quite an interesting idea, and also working on the energy finance innovation. Obviously, two areas that are critically important in order to develop the European energy security. So Mr. Topolánek, I wanted to ask you also about the Nord Stream 2, but that issue was covered. I'm sure that you will say a few words on that. But just to add to that, how the gas infrastructure will develop in the context of this trend that we're seeing in Europe of basically declining gas consumption on European level. Now we're at the level of year 2000, and there are quite a lot of comments and experts' prediction that this trend might continue.
Thank you very much. I have to thank the organizers to be so brave to invite me repeatedly to significant events in Slovakia as a GLOBSEC and this TATRA summit, because I am not politically correct. I won't be anytime. It's advantage. Somebody has to be politically incorrect. Maybe I will start with a simpler answer. What's going on gas consumption within Europe? I am not convinced that the consumption will be decreased. We will need some substitution to production, indigenous production from Netherlands and in the future from Norway. We have to substitute some limits of supply to Europe. And on the other hand, when we will realize a very ambitious and very proud project against climate changes and low carbon economy in European Union, we will need some sources, and electricity and gas are complementary sources. It is not substitution. And I am convinced that the gas consumption after some short period of stagnation of what's going regarding consumption of gas will increase. It is very clear, because we have to fulfill our binding targets regarding and unfortunately after the Paris summit won't be a situation worse, and we will be as a leader of global fight against climate changes, and unfortunately we have to fulfill for the future more serious criteria. And gas is one of the tool. Nuclear power and gas is one of the tool how to arrange it. But I will come back to Maroš Šefčovič opening speech. Maroš, my friend, said we have to talk. It is usual European mantra, we have to talk. But there are two preconditions in this discussion. We have to talk openly and directly. It shouldn't be European surfing on the flat base. It is not example of Maroš, of course, but it's usual in Brussels. I will apologize many times today too. Secondly, after the talking, we need some action. And it is not enough only to talk. We have to realize some visions, ideas, plans, and so on. Energy Union was a brilliant plan, and we applauded. Most of us applauded when the first stage of the project. Every project has 5 stages. Maybe because I am engineer, I know it. Yeah? The first stage is so-called pre-project enthusiasm. It's characterized by the sentence of Jean-Claude Juncker: I will quote it because I'm old. I want to reform and reorganize Europe's energy policy in a new European energy union. It was very optimistic, very ambitious, and I applauded it because this plan is brilliant, especially for Central and Eastern European countries. When I remembered Jerzy Buzek and Donald Tusk as the founding father of this thought, of this idea. I welcomed when Maroš Šefčovič was nominated and chosen as a commissioner responsible for energy union project. Unfortunately, every project has a second stage. The second stage is so-called disillusion or disillusionment or sobering of implementation. We are now into this phase, into this stage. And now the first stage is usually, and I wish to Maroš not to take part in this process, to search for culprits. And the fourth stage is so-called punishment of innocence. And the fifth stage is usually, and I was a designer one half of my life and I know it, yeah? The fifth stage is a rewarding of outsiders or non-participants. Yeah? And why, maybe more seriously, why the project of Energy Union project is threatened? It is not only by Nord Stream 2, but it is one of the concrete reasons of threatening. In this project are encrypted or deposited so-called Dragon X or landmines. The first is when leaders of European Union stood up and verbally and formally supported this project as a very good idea how to create single market, how to base better interconnection between countries, how to make energy more secure, affordable, sustainable, and so on. How to bring to every European this cheap and secure energy. It was supported very openly. Unfortunately, leaders postponed the sharp and maybe a little bit controversial discussion for later dates. And we do know that the devil is hidden in the detail. And the first problem is that from the final declaration of the Council, removed clause about possibility or about competence of European Commission regarding bilateral energy agreements negotiated with EU non-member states. It was a little bit mistake at the beginning. It was one of the preconditions to be successful. I remember the sentence of Donald Tusk in the time, all leaders agreed to enhance transparency on the gas market, that suppliers cannot abuse their market position to violate EU directives and reduce our energy security. It was Donald Tusk. Goodness gracious, yeah. It was very naive. Germany expressed in that time concern that it could lead to the disclosure of sensitive dates about Nord Stream 2 probably in that time. Yeah. And we have to ask now, when we would like to evaluate the first year of implementation of this project, why the problems coming to our reality can threaten this project basically, and why and we have to ask if the states within European Union play the ball of this project. And I am afraid they don't play the role. Because of national governments have always jealously guarded their competition their responsibility, their own control over decisions regarding energy sector, and they prioritize domestic issues, domestic interests, domestic goals against European values, European rules, European objectives. Unfortunately, it's true. Second problem is maybe not so important, but it's one of the bad precondition at the beginning is in this project were set diametrically opposed goals. On the one hand, it is how to create a sustainable low-carbon economy, environmentally friendly, and how to be as a leader of this fight against climate changes and global warming. On the other hand, we promised in this project, and we have as a basic objective, how to cut household bills, how to create new jobs, how to increase competitiveness of European Union. And I am afraid, and you have to believe me, I am really afraid that these both priorities are impossible to fulfill. Because of the politics and ideology didn't meet physics and economics. And these two problems based maybe some troubles for the future, but we are able to keep this project. This project could be successful, but we have to solve problem with Nord Stream 2. It is visible problem which is able to destroy or to threaten energy union project very quickly. Why? Frankly speaking, Nord Stream 2, when Nord Stream 2 will be implemented, as it is announced now, everything is permitted. Nothing is valid. We don't have any rules. Because this project is against all European rules, all European objectives, all European values. Against the third energy package, against third parties' access to the pipeline, against all. And when we will allow this project, it will be very difficult to persuade individual countries of European Union to trust, to have a trust to European Commission power, European Commission decision-making process. It is very arrogant project, and it is not European project. It is very powerful project. And in fact, it is betrayal to Ukraine. It's impossible, on the one hand, to realize some sanctions against Russia. On the other hand, to realize project which will bypass Ukraine definitely. It's impossible to realize this project after the cancellation of South Stream project. Under the same rules, under the same rhetoric, we cancelled, or Putin cancelled, because he didn't accept European rules, European directives. And in the same situation, more dangerous, we will allow this project. And I will be very surprised, and I will be very satisfied when European Commission will stop this project. It won't be easy, because leaders of this project are big guys. And you know this joke, football is a game with ball. This game is are playing 22 players, and Germany every time win. It is impossible. It is impossible. It is impossible. Maybe not so polite example. You are not. You know what's a big dog doing with a small one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I won't explain. I won't explain. And that's why I think when we would like to keep European unity, solidarity, equality of opportunities, we have to stop this project. And we have to realize other one, we have to double LNG capacity, we have to open routes and pipelines going from south, from Iran. I am absolutely convinced that one of the reasons of Russia participation, military participation in Syria, is gas. Routes going from Iraq, a potential control of these pipelines. We remember South Ossetia, Abkhazia. We remember Nabucco. We remember the South Stream. And I am afraid that when we won't be able to reduce our dependence on Russia gas, it is possible. We can allow flow or supply of Russia gas to European internal market. Why not? We need this gas. But it must be under our rules. Third parties, access. We have to have very liquid markets with a pricing control. We have to have control what's going on capacity. Maybe it's my view. I'm a big fan of. I'm Eurosceptic, in fact, yeah? But I'm a big fan of European project.
Good you clarified that.
And I wish Maros to realize, because when the project will be realized, we will be more secure, we will be more stable, and we will be more satisfied, everybody. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Topolanek. Before we continue, would you like to respond, not so much about Nord Stream 2, but whether the entire energy union project is threatened, and also whether these two main objectives of competitiveness and low carbon economy are impossible to reconcile? Very briefly, Mr. Šefčovič.
As Mirek said, he always brings such a dose of excitement and healthy skepticism in the debate, as we have seen this morning, and I think it's usually the good way how to bring the additional dynamics into the discussion. So of course on some of the things clearly we have a little bit different views, because I cannot say that we have kind of losing the steam in the energy union project. Just let's remember, we presented it in the February of this year. So we have 9 months. We have 9 months of the energy union project. We have action plan which would deliver 90% of these legal proposals, which would form the basis, fundamentals for the energy union within 1.5 years. So all of you who are working on European affairs, you know that we are here moving in record speed. I was referring to some of the concrete steps we took into the energy security, and we are progressing there as well. And concerning the transition to the low carbon economy, I think it's a must. I mean, you will see it in the Paris, and you will see it after the Paris. Actually, every single economy has to go through this decarbonization phase. It's not only because what we are doing to our planets. You see that public is more and more pressing for the healthy, cleaner, greener, smarter solutions. People want to breathe clean air. People want to have clean drinking water. Young people want to live in a healthy environment, and I think this is kind of intergenerational solidarity. We just simply have to hand over planet to our children in at least the same we inherited from our parents, and for that we need to do a lot of things. And I think that we in Europe actually are a good example. I mean, we managed to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions since Kyoto by 20%, and we still grew by 46% in our economies. And this new economy, this new innovation hub, which is being created in Slovakia, but in many other places in Europe, is actually bringing new jobs, new growth into European economy. We have more than 1 million people working in this sphere. It's bringing the know-how, which is very much thought in the countries like India, China, and Africa, because they simply realize that they cannot build the economy in the old fossil manner. That if they want to grow, they simply have to go for smarter and cleaner solutions. And if you travel across Europe, you see what's going on in our labs, what's going on in our SMEs. You see how big businesses And big enterprises are investing in energy efficiency, in circular economy, in waste to fuel type of the project. So I'm actually very optimistic, and I think that in this particular case, I think we have a competitive edge, because every major economy in the world will have to go through this energy transition, through this economic transformation, and we are the first one to do it. Of course, we made some of the mistakes. Of course, some of the things could be more optimal, but we gathered experience. We showed it's possible. We have technologies which have been developed in Europe, which are now, I would say, very strong marketing and export tool for other major economies which have to go through this development. So I think that it would not be to the detriment, but I think it would be to the advantage of European economies that we are actually quite advanced. Just two more elements where I'm also taking this optimism from. I mean, I work very closely with many mayors in Europe. We have 6,000 mayors working on so-called covenant of Europe, which I would if I would oversimplify, its commitment to the sustainable cities, its commitment to build cities in a smart way, to merge energy networks with the new digital possibilities, to invest in greener, decarbonized public transport, and simply to have a healthier environment for the citizens. We have almost 80% of our inhabitants living in these cities, and they are supporting this policy. So it's clearly something which is very much demanded. And you see how this, I would say, energy efficiency is promoted by the mayors. They want to smarten the buildings. The industry wants to increase energy efficiency, and they want to have more hybrid or electric buses on the cities of the cities, as we see, I would say, across the whole Europe. And especially after this debate and these unfortunate discoveries and these cheatings we have seen in parts of our car industry, it's quite clear that we will have also a new segment like electric cars developing much faster than before. Therefore, I was so encouraged when we came from the States that first thing, as a joint project with our American partners we can open was joint lab, how we are going to standardize electric cars for the future, how we are going to standardize smart grids, electric grids, which could actually carry this load of the future demand for the electric cars. It's clearly new segment. It's a new development which we would have in both sides of the Atlantic, and I think it's very good that the two biggest economies are working on this together. So I would say, yeah, you can have a look at it from the dose of skepticism, but I think that we have lots of arguments to bring also optimism into this debate.
Well, thank you very much. Just one sentence from Mr. Hudek.
Maybe two sentences,
Two.
but very brief. Very brief.
We have the lady
on this point,
waiting.
because I think it's really very important issue for this discussion and overall, which is the question mark whether move towards environmentally friendly, climate-related energy type of production, whether it's consistent with increasing the competitiveness of the European economy. Because we are now maybe in the second phase of what Mr. Topolánek described in terms of the climate change type of energy, especially in terms of the introduction of renewables, where we are in the stage of some kind of paranoia or rather bad feelings, because all of us, we are suffering from the cost of renewables in our energy mix. And also in Slovakia, we have to de facto subsidize the introduction of renewables. But I believe this is just the second phase, which will move into a new phase. And this is what Maroš mentioned. This is the fact that there is an overall push for cleaner energy, for a cleaner environment, which is global. Even rich Chinese and middle-income Chinese are moving out of China because they want to live in cleaner environments. So there is a lot of push in this direction. There are technologies which are introduced and which are making the production of renewable energy sources much cheaper. And I think Europe was always different from the other parts of the world by being able to capture the new innovations, new technologies, and to be the leader. Just one point I want to mention is that while we are doing this, and this is, I think, the right process to move towards the clean energy, to look at the energy from the point of view of climate change, we also have to be, of course, sensitive to the impact on economy and on the prices. And one of the issues which is important for Slovakia is that the move towards, for example, the goal of 40% reduction of CO2 by 2030, which is the overall goal for the EU, from our point of view, should be neutral in terms of the types of clean energy being used. So for us, it means that our national energy mix, which includes a very big portion of nuclear energy, nuclear production, should be kept, and we believe that this is also contribution to the clean energy production.
Thank you, Mr. Hude. Mr. Šefčovič already introduced the relationships and with the US in the area of standardization of electric cars, smart grids, and so on. So, Robin Danigan, what is your take from US point of view about the energy union and energy security of the European Union and the neighboring states? Because we know that from your point of view, you have also great interest in the stability of Ukraine and also other neighboring areas.
Thank you, and thank you for actually including a U.S. official in today's conference and to the organizers. It's one of the questions is, why do you have an American up here on the stage talking about European Union energy security? And I have to say, I'm actually from our foreign ministry. The State Department's our foreign ministry, and we're the only foreign ministry in the world that has an entire bureau, 100 people dedicated to energy policy. And the reason for that is a recognition of the essential interconnection between energy policy and our national security. Really, it centers around a trifecta of interests: our economic growth, our geopolitical security, and our climate goals. Energy policy is essential to all three of those national security objectives. And the energy security of our partners, and especially here in Europe, is equally important to our national security. So we have worked hand in hand with the European Union and bilaterally with member states for years, before the Energy Union, even starting back in the early 90s on the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline to support diversification. As far as the Energy Union, we applaud the efforts of the Vice President and the Commission on the Energy Union strategy and plan. In fact, I joined the Vice President last February in Latvia when the Energy Union proposal was launched. When you look at the essence of what's proposed in the Energy Union: diversification of fuel types, sources, and routes, innovation, energy efficiency, cohesion and integration of infrastructure, but also of policy. This is really the core to energy security. The core diversification is absolutely essential. And it doesn't just mean oil and gas pipelines. It means electricity markets. It means integrating renewables onto your grid in a way that works. It means cohesion of regulatory policies. So we're very big supporters of the Energy Union strategy, and through the US-EU Energy Council, we've also worked closely with our partners, starting with the Vice President, on how do you translate this into action? And the work of the Commission to get the priority list of infrastructure projects down from 230 or 40 to 14 or 10 real priority infrastructure projects was an important undertaking, and the agreement of countries to a list that didn't include them was essential. So we've also advocated, there's a lot of talk about big mega pipeline projects, Turkish Stream, South Stream. There are small infrastructure projects that we can do, that can be done here, that will make all the difference. Interconnectors, important interconnectors, such as an interconnector between Greece and Bulgaria, the Southern Gas Corridor. United States, we don't have a single company investing in the Southern Gas Corridor, which will bring Caspian gas through Turkey into Europe. And yet we've been huge supporters of it because it will introduce non-Russian gas into a market and inject some competition. We've also supported the Baltic energy projects when Lithuania opened its LNG terminal a year ago. Hugely important. It's not a lot of gas coming in through that terminal, but it's allowed Lithuania to renegotiate its gas purchase contract with Gazprom. competition is always a good thing for prices, for the consumer. We're also supporters of an LNG terminal off the coast, or a floating terminal off the coast of Croatia. Again, inject some competition and allow for a different source of gas to come into that region. So we're very big supporters of the Energy Union proposal, and we look forward to seeing that column of the to-dos continue to shrink, and applaud the EU for their efforts. If I could turn quickly to a couple of other things that were mentioned, starting with Nord Stream 2, or the Nord Stream expansion. I very much appreciate the comments of my colleagues up on the stage today, because the United States is very concerned about Nord Stream 2. And maybe I can basket the concerns into two baskets. The first is regarding Ukraine. There are a lot of people in this room, and just about everybody on this stage has worked very hard over the last couple of years to support Ukraine. Slovakia, through its reverse flow of natural gas into Ukraine, has been absolutely critical to Ukraine getting through last winter and this winter. The EBRD has just, and through Ricardo's personal work, a lot of work over the last year, has secured, among the many things the EBRD has done, it has secured a loan for $300 million to help Naftagaz purchase gas. The Vice President and the Commission worked tirelessly to get a gas agreement between Gazprom and Naftagaz. So a lot of work to support Ukraine. And you have to ask, why would you support Ukraine with one hand and strangle it with the other? And I think that's what Nord Stream 2, if it's built in a way that cuts off all gas transit through Ukraine, if that's the end result, $2 billion of revenue per year lost, that would be the end effect. So we are very concerned of that being one possible outcome of Nord Stream 2. The other basket goes back to this diversification of sources in Europe. There are a lot of possibilities. The Vice President mentioned new finds in the Eastern Mediterranean, off the coast of Egypt, Israel, and Cyprus. We have US LNG hitting the market, and I will get into that in a moment. So the LNG market is going to look very different in 5 years than it looks today. But all of these projects require a market in Europe to happen. Why are you as a developer going to, especially in today's price environment, going to be exploiting resources, natural gas resources in the Eastern Med, or the second phase of Shah Deniz, or really use LNG terminals in Western Europe, in Spain or in Greece? If you're already getting another 55 BCM of Russian gas through a Nord Stream 2 expansion that's, locks in countries to long-term contracts from the same supplier. So I think Nord Stream 2 actually threatens not only Ukraine's viability and their resources, but it is a risk to real diversification in Europe, especially Central and Southeastern Europe. Finally, I think I have to touch just on two more things. One is the U.S. oil and gas exports. The Vice President mentioned it. It's one of the questions I'm most frequently asked in Europe. When is the United States going to open its exports of liquefied natural gas to Europe? And I think, as the Vice President found in the United States, the oil question is something that's being hotly debated in our Congress, and not something that I'm going to resolve at my pay grade. But talking about gas, every molecule of LNG that we are exporting over the next 5 years, and we haven't started yet, but it will start to hit the market in early 2016, has been approved for the export to free trade agreement countries and non-free trade agreement countries. So all of the LNG that the United States will be putting on the market, and it could be up over 100 BCM of gas, has been approved for export to anywhere in the world, any customer. And ultimately, commercial concerns will drive where that LNG goes, but our LNG that we'll be exporting can go to Europe. And in fact, a lot of European suppliers are already negotiating with US companies. The question is, it doesn't matter how much LNG we're putting onto global markets or how much we're exporting to Europe, if once it gets to Europe, it can't move to any point in Europe from the place it got to, the place it entered. And again, that goes back to this project-based approach, finishing interconnectors, making a really viable natural gas market here. And finally, turning to energy efficiency, renewables, the Prime Minister mentioned